Today we're going to take a look at replacing the EGR valve on this Ford Mustang with a 4.6 liter VIN-X engine. And so you can see we've got two mounting bolts here. We've got a vacuum line on the top, but then we've also got the EGR tube threads into the back side of it here. So in order to get started, I've already gone ahead and removed the EGR control solenoid. It's a little bit in our way. It helps us see a little bit better. Plus I don't want to run the risk of snapping it off. So I just removed two bolts, the vacuum lines and electrical connections. If you have any additional questions on that, take a look at our video that explains that process. But now that's out of the way, I'm going to remove the vacuum line, which goes from the control solenoid to the top of the EGR valve. And also, while it's still bolted up, now I'm going to take a 1/16 inch end wrench and remove the tube on the back side here. So I'm going to give you a word of caution. Quite often those will be rusted in place. Fortunately, this one comes loose and it's workable. There's been many times in my career where I've had to actually break this off or cut it and end up replacing the entire assembly, or the whole tube, which is not real fun because it goes down to the exhaust on the back side of the engine here. So fortunately, this one is clean enough and was able to come loose. Kind of also helps I'm doing this on a cold engine, whereas if it's hot, it might actually be swelled and stuck into place. That nut might not turn. So we'll get that out of the way. Now I'm also going to take my ratchet with a 10mm socket and remove the two hold down bolts. Once that's loose, now the whole assembly will pop up and allows me to get at it a little freer to continue getting the tube unbolted the rest of the way. Once I've got my EGR valve off, I'll just take a little gasket scraper, clean up the mounting surface here, make sure it's good and clean. So we've got a fresh mounting surface for our new valve. So before I go ahead and mount the valve to the throttle body, I'm going to go ahead and start my tube here. Now this is the best bit of advice I can give you on this whole project is to get this started before actually mounting it to the car. Once it's mounted to the car, you lose any flexibility and it's a difficult time getting it installed. Okay, so now that we've got our tube started in line, kind of finger tight there, I'm going to take my gasket, slide it into place here, and I will also take one of the bolts and then kind of work it into place here and get it started by hand. So keep in mind at this point we're already kind of fighting the tube, which wants to push it away, but certainly glad that I started with the tube first versus trying to wrestle with it once I actually got the valve mounted in place. That's never a fun time. So just on the backside yet, I have to work to ensure that my gasket is lined up. And we'll get all of our holes lined up here properly. So once we get these all tightened down, I'll install the vacuum line. I'll go ahead and reinstall my control solenoid, and just like that, the job is done. Hopefully now you understand what it takes to replace the EGR valve on this Ford 4.6 liter. Take a look at our other videos to understand control solenoid replacements as well as the DPFE sensor.